For exercise 5-36, this one here is in inches. So I'm going to go to new and I'm going to select my inch template or my imperial template and say open. I want to click down here to make sure that isometric drafting is turned on. And since everything on here is going to be done from the front view, I want to make sure that isoplane left is selected. I'm going to double check my polar settings and make sure that 30, 60, 90 is what is active. And then I'm going to kind of start this one from the back. I'm going to go for the ellipse with the iso circle option. Diameter is going to be 1.38. And then I'm going to copy this forward 1.13. And that's going to be that kind of that intermediate face. I'm going to draw a line from this quadrant to this quadrant, and then from this quadrant to this quadrant. I can now trim out this back circle for what you don't see, but before I do that, I want to copy it again, the total distance, which in this case is 2.75, because I'm going to need that full circle up here in just a few minutes. So now I can trim this. At this front portion of this thing is cut in half. So what I'm going to do to make my life a little bit easier is I'm going to track from this center and I'm going to draw a center line across here, and I'm going to draw a center line across here, and I'm going to use this to kind of make that cutout. So we're going to copy this from here straight forward to here. That way we have the information here as well. Now I'm going to copy. It's important not to use offset because offset goes in a straight line and we want these to be along a 30 degree. So I'm going to copy this over 0.25 in this direction and 0.25 in this direction. And then for the verticals, you really could just go ahead and do offset, but I'm going to go ahead and use copy. So this is a square that represents the cutout that is going through this piece. So to clean this up a little bit, I'm going to do a couple trims. First of all, I'm going to trim out the whole right-hand side of the circle because we don't need that. And then I'm going to trim using just these 3 lines right here. We're going to trim the sections that we don't need to see. Then we'll trim using the center line again and get rid of these, and then I can just erase these 2 sections and then trim out this. So this is now the front profile of the actual face that we're dealing with. Now, this front profile goes back 1.13. So I'm going to copy this, and this back 1.13. And I forgot one line, but it's fine. I can just draw that line in. So now I want to connect these 2 points. I want to connect these two, and basically all of the points. So now you can see I've got that cutout that kind of goes through on the front. I do need to copy this arc back to here as well. So what I've essentially got going on right here is where all of the cutouts happen to be for this particular surface. Now, once it's back here, it does a little bit different. I'm going to draw in from quadrant to quadrant here so that you can kind of see where this curvature here needs to be applied. But this cutout goes back 0.25 on the flat face on the back. So if I copy this line here over 0.25, this lets me know where this thing is actually being cut. Now, before I get too much further into this, there's a lot of lines going on here. And learning to identify which lines are which, you can use color coding, you can do really anything that you want. But basically, if you just picture this thing in such a way that you kind of figure out where the construction lines need to be, that'll help you out just a little bit. So this line right here, for all intents and purposes, is going to be an edge. So I'm going to trim this back to that circle. These 4 lines right here are construction lines, so I can realistically get rid of those. Now I do need a line that comes from here along that 30-degree angle to right there. Now what this is going to serve the purpose for is allowing me to trim out the back side of this arc, because it's not visible in what we're actually dealing with here. So here I can see where this front cutout is. Now I still am going to need parts of this circle, but I do want to copy this line here from here down to the other end point, because this is where we can see the bottom edge of that. Now I can trim out this. So now with all of the edges connected that need to be connected, I can trim between here and here this whole back side of this arc, and then I can actually go ahead and trim back so that everything lines up with those edges. And then we'll do another trim to cut out these pieces here, which are not visible in the view. So what we've got here is we had a lot of construction lines, but as long as you can keep the line straight for what you need and what you need to delete, it isn't really too difficult to kind of follow along once you really start to get the hang of it. But this is exercise 5-36.